Glad you're with us on Wealth by Design. Brad Johansson with Tom Elder, president of Retirement Wealth Design. How are you today, my friend?
Excellent day.
All good?
It's a great day, absolutely.
It's a good day to have income. It is a good day to have income.
I don't know how we function without income,
We're
Brad.
going to spend time on this. And you know what? People are trying to function without the proper income going into retirement. When the job stops, the paychecks stop, how are we going to figure out income? So income is the outcome. Do you have an income plan for your retirement? How do we get this wrong so many times when we say, you know what, we're going to figure this out. I'm accumulating, but I'm done. So I hope this is going to be enough. What's wrong with that retire and hope kind of philosophy?
Well, the rules change when you go to retire. When it comes to accumulations where you're saving every single year, you've been saving for 30 and 40 years for most of you right now. And that has been a part of who you are at this point. You're used to not seeing that 5, 10, 15% of your paycheck every single month. And so you've also been used to seeing your accounts grow because of that. However, when you get to retirement, now we have to start taking income out. And we have to take income out not only from our retirement plans, but now we have to figure out how to do Social Security. If you do still have a pension, which only a small portion of retirees still have a pension, if you do still have a pension, you have to figure out how to take that pension. And a lot of folks then, when it comes to their income plan, they don't realize, or maybe they realize too late, that they need to shift their investments to match their income plan. Because what a portfolio looks like when you're saving and growing versus what it should look like when you start taking money out is two totally different styles of portfolios. And I meet with people all the time that say, hey, I'm just going to wait until after I retire. I know that I should be more conservative, but I'm just going to wait until after I retire. The problem with that style of thinking is that now the market is going to be in charge of your retirement. What I mean by that is that if you wait until you retire, what happens if the markets drop 10, 15, 20% at the time that you want to retire? You're probably going to end up waiting to retire. Now the market's in control of your retirement, which is not where you want to be. You want to be in control of your own destiny. You want to be in control of your own financial freedom. And if you want to be in control of your own financial freedom, you have to set it up before it happens. Unfortunately, Brad, the market crashes on average about every 5.5 years.
Right.
And so that's why within 5 to 10 years of retirement, we should start making shifts. If you're already inside of that window, or let's say that you're already retired, that's okay, but today is better than yesterday, right? And tomorrow is better than, well, never. And so reach out to me. I'm happy to walk through this. I know that it can be confusing, especially if you've been in a 401k plan for a long time. I completely understand why it just might be, I'll wait until later. Don't. It can have a serious impact on your retirement. Give me a call. My team's standing by 833-348-4813, and I would be happy to schedule a time to talk about this and maybe some shifts or moves in your portfolio that might benefit your income plan in retirement.
Yeah, the number is good. This is what he has put together, and this is probably something that you would like as well. It is Retirement Wealth Design. Retirement Wealth by Design. The book is there to put together an answer to all of your retirement questions, and my goodness, there are a lot of them. If the times are changing, Tom, I'd like to send this out to you for free, so you can scan the QR code. We'll send it out to you, make this happen for you to put it in. When you say, okay, now the times are changing to try and figure out the income on all of this, Tom, we've been doing what we were told to. We save our money in 401ks, our 457s, our 403bs.
Or TSP, don't forget
or
the government employees.
TSPs, but this is what we do, and then we get done, and this is our number. What's wrong with thinking that our number is all ours?
Yeah. So you're bringing up the taxation of those pre-tax accounts, Brad. So
it's a painful moment.
Oh my goodness. It is a very painful moment when you sit and you look at your retirement account and let's say, for example, it's $1 million. If your 401k is $1 million, that's fantastic. You have done great at saving. However, when you go to take that money out, that's all going to be taxable as income. And so that $1 million saved is no longer $1 million. It might be $800,000. It might be $750,000. It might only be $700,000 of that is your money. And it doesn't matter the size of your 401k. It is going to be true that it's all going to be taxable as income for you. And so if that is the case, then we need to start figuring out how to keep more of your money yours, right? Within the letter of the law, legally speaking, we want to keep more money in your pocket and give less to the IRS. And in order to do that, we have to start putting a tax plan together now. Now, the great thing is, Brad, with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that was passed,
Yes.
right, that put our current tax code in its permanent state because fortunately or unfortunately, taxes were scheduled to go up in 2026 this year. However, the One Big Beautiful Bill did not allow that. They kept tax brackets where they are at, and they kept them there permanently, which in legislative speak is just until the next guy
It's
changes
permanent
it.
until it's not.
But what that did for retirees is that means that we have 3 or 4, maybe hopefully a few more years of the current tax code. And with that being said, we have 3 or 4 years at least where we can start making some big shifts and getting you into a better tax situation. Because when we start talking strategic tax planning, especially for income, it usually takes anywhere from 5 to 15 years to execute, meaning we do it a little bit at a time each year, year after year. We evaluate, we measure, and then we put it in place. And this is one of the ways that now you can keep more of your money in your pocket every single year in retirement.
Talk about readiness, and this is a survey that's not even up to date, but it's as near as we have. Back to 2023, Schroders put together a retirement survey. 49% of those respondents said that they do not have a retirement income strategy. They're just going to take money from the accounts and they're going to go. 57% concerned about not having regular paychecks in retirement. 23%, and I say this is very conservative, say that they were terrified. I think more and more people today moving into that, and it's not necessarily even by their choice. I would like to retire when I'm going to retire, except many companies are making that decision for these people. It can be terrifying to go through this. And the problem is for most of these people who are responding, they simply don't have a plan because either they weren't listening, they weren't paying attention, or they say no one told us that we were supposed to have a plan moving into retirement. If we don't, are we doomed to fail in this without a written financial plan to try and put this whole thing together?
I don't know if I'd say doomed to fail. There would still be hope, but I would start taking action today, right? Because the sooner that you take action, the sooner that it'll have an impact, right? Don't beat yourself up about what's happened in the past, right? You can't drive a car looking in the rearview mirror, right? But I would say probably even in my experience with who we see in the office, 1 out of every 2 people doesn't have an income plan. And people that I work with don't run out of money in retirement. So there's still absolute hope. However, I kind of look at it as, I like to use the analogy of toothpaste, okay? And what I mean by that is retirement income is kind of like toothpaste, where when I get that brand new tube of toothpaste, right, usually in the beginning, I'm like spreading it all across the bristles and then some, right? And I'm using way too much of it. Not that pea size that's recommended, but way too much because I have a full tube of toothpaste. Like, why not, right? But then all of a sudden that might last me a couple of weeks and I'm starting to get low where I'm starting to squeeze it up, right? And magically that time period where I only have a little bit left, I'm just putting a tiny, tiny bit on, right? My breath still smells good, Brad. Though I see you're sitting far away from me, but I promise it does. But I'm only, and that will last me as long as that first probably 3/4 of the tube lasted me. I don't want retirement income to be that way, to where you think you're in good shape because your 401k looks great and you have lots of money, and then all of a sudden you're spending too much and you get a big market drop, and now the money that you pulled out doesn't bounce back, and so you end up losing money. And you don't get the money that you lost back because you had to live off of it. And that's kind of like the toothpaste analogy. So now you have less and you're gonna have to spread it out and take little by little over time. We don't want anybody to end up in that situation. We don't want anybody to end up to where they're just getting by, or they're feeling like they're broke, or they're having to, eat peanut butter and jellies every single day for dinner. Instead, we want you to live the retirement dreams that you have. Feel comfortable spending your money, knowing that you're not going to run out, and then we're within those guide rails of how much you can spend each year. And that proper planning not only gives peace of mind, but it gives full security to your retirement plan so you can freely spend your money and have true financial freedom throughout retirement.
Which may lead you to making a phone call now to say, I need to put together a financial plan. And this one's complimentary. 833-348-4813. To put together all of these things that you may not have thought about, because if you're going to squeeze it out, you can't put it back in. So you have to have a plan to make sure that it lasts until your last breath. 833-348-4813. Let's put together your plan. We'll be right back.
For me, my ideal client looks like somebody that has worked hard their entire lives, has generally lived below their means, so they've been able to save some money, and now they just want to figure out how can they live off of what they've saved and live comfortably off what they saved. I also tend to sway towards somebody that is a conservative investor. What the math shows is that losses can hurt you more than gains help you. And so I like to work with conservative investors that don't want to have to worry about which way the market is turning today. They instead want to know which way is their grandkid turning today, right? Where is their next vacation going to take them to? Or where is their next charitable event going to be? And so my ideal client just wants to focus on the important things in life, knowing that they have confidence in their financial plan.
So glad you're with us on Wealth by Design. And Wealth by Design, Retirement Wealth by Design is the book that Tom has put together. Would you like a copy of that? Coincidentally, we have a QR code that you can scan. It is yours for free. Tom will send that out to you, filled with not only the questions, but the answers that you need to make retirement by your design and make it work until the very end. We're talking about income strategies. The strategy you use to turn your retirement savings into retirement income may be one of the most consequential financial decisions you will ever make. End quote. Why is this so significant to say, look, I've just been told I'm supposed to come up with a number. And for a lot of time, it was $1 million. If I get to $1 million, I'm going to be good. And if I do a 4% rule with $1 million, it's all going to work. Are the rules antiquated by now as we start looking to create our income?
They're extremely out of date. I hate when people say you have to have $1 million, or actually I just saw one the other day that was the latest is you have to have $2.2 million saved, okay? And I've worked with people that have way more than that. I've worked with people that have way less than that. On both sides of the equation, some of them are struggling, some of them are in great shape. It doesn't matter how much you have saved. At the end of the day, retirement income planning is a very simple equation. It's the money coming in versus the money going out, okay? If you need more going out, then we have to figure out how to get more coming in, right? For some people, they don't need as much going out as they'll have coming in, and then we really need to do some tax planning because those RMDs crush them. However, right, we just got to figure out those two sides of the equation. And so with my process, what I do is I start with how much money do you need, and then it's how much money do you want, right? If you're still working, a lot of people that are working don't know how much money they spend each month. So one of the places that we start is let's take a look at your take-home pay stub, right? How much after tax, after everything comes out, is coming out of your paycheck? And then let's say you have $5,000 a month coming in. Are you saving money each month? Are you breaking even, or are you going into debt, right? If you're breaking even, well, guess what? the baseline for retirement should probably be about $5,000 a month, because you probably want to maintain your same lifestyle in retirement. And then from there, we need to add on, if that's what you need, then we need to add on some wants, right? Do you want a new car every 5 years? Do you want to take some trips in retirement? Do you want to be able to give money to the grandchildren? Do you want? And we start adding this onto the income plan. And then we run it. And we run it 10,000 different times based off the history of the market, from it going really well to really poorly. And we measure how many times would you have run out of money. And based off of that, I can tell you you're good to go, or we need to make some tweaks, work longer, or spend less. But you have clarity at that point. You have an idea of the track that you're on, where it's going to go. And then we can make adjustments as needed for it.
Strategies for where people need to go. We talked about it, that there may be 12% of Americans who still have pensions. If you have one, fantastic. We all want grandpa's retirement, right? He got the cake, he got the watch, he got the party, and he got the income. You got mailbox money. When this has changed, and we're 401ks and we're putting money away, and some of these decisions are now being made for us, where do you begin in strategies when we say, I want you to come in, I want to talk about a written financial plan? How do you begin the strategies for income that's going to last the rest of your life?
Great question. So the very first place we always begin is at the beginning. No, so the very I'm a dad, I got dad jokes. So we want to start with Social Security and pensions, right? Social Security is intended to make up for the majority of Americans about 30 to 40% of their working income. Now, in my experience, I've seen very great difference in that, meaning that there's been some people that it takes up much less than 30 to 40%, some people that it takes up much more. Then we want to look at pensions. Then we want to look at what kind of savings do you have for your retirement. And we're starting to put together a picture of what you have currently. And as I said previously, we want to look at where you're going to go, what do you want to need. And then we need to start tacking on other things. We need to look at healthcare costs. Not a lot of people know that Medicare actually costs money in retirement. And it can be rather expensive. For a married couple that both reaches the age of 65, the average cost of Medicare throughout their lifetime is going to be about $335,000.
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. And that's just Part B, Part D, co-pays and premiums, cover prescriptions, non-cover prescriptions. It does not include long-term care. So Medicare deems long-term care custodial care. And because it deems it custodial care, that means it doesn't cover it. And so we're typically going to have to build that into the equation. Actually, in the state of Missouri currently, the average cost of a nursing home is $108,000 per year, right? Which is wild. And the average length of need of long-term care is 2 years. So with that being said, that can take a big chunk out of somebody's retirement portfolio. So we got to build in some of these large expenses, right? Are you in your forever home? If not, how much is it going to cost to move, and where are you going to be going, right? We got to build in some of these big expenses. But once we get that clear picture of where we're at, then we have the income plan. And from the income plan, now we can talk about investments. Now we can talk about taxes. Now we can talk about healthcare strategies. Now we can talk about legacy planning. What happens if something happens to you or your spouse? Are you going to be okay? Do you have somebody in mind that you want to leave as a beneficiary? And how can we make sure that your assets avoid probate, right, and go directly to them? And so we can start doing some more of this advanced planning, but we always start with the income plan, which is why I offer for anybody that I meet with a complimentary written income plan. All you have to do is give my office a call, right? I mean, if you're looking for financial freedom in retirement, you're one phone call away at this point, because we're doing this for free. This is completely complimentary. Just call 833-348-4813. That's 833-348-4813. And in doing so, I'm going to sit down with you. I'm going to talk through all the steps of that income plan. We're going to put it together for you, and we're going to show you exactly the path that you're on, and if there's anything that I would recommend change-wise to get you to a better place. I will take you from good to great if I can, Otherwise, I will just tell you, you're already great. There's nothing else that I can do, and you should carry on with the same path that you're on.
Wouldn't you like to get from good to great? 833-348-4813. Put together your complimentary written financial plan. Let's do it now. Don't waste any more time. Make the call. We'll be back after this.
How I got in the financial space was really based off my grandfather. My grandfather grew up in poverty, Great Depression, like a lot of people. He taught me that a full life is not about what you have, what you drive, what's in your bank account. The purpose of life, how to have a full life, is serving other people. I grew up in a great household, had a great dad that taught me a lot of lessons about work ethic. One of the biggest lessons he taught me was if you're going to do a job, do it right or don't do it at all. But my grandfather really instilled in me the servant's heart mentality. When I got old enough that I finally realized I could have an impact on the community around me, that I was given gifts that could be used to serve others, one of the people that I started with was my dad. My dad was a great father, father of four, worked his whole life, sacrificed for us. One of the areas that he told me that he had always struggled with and struggled to find good advice was finances. So when I realized that I had a gift for finances and that I could actually help those around me, I started with him. And he was one of my very first clients ever. And he still is today, and I'm proud to say he's successfully retired. Helps take care of my kids now. But that's how we treat everyone that we work with. We try to serve those around us because at the end of the day, that's why we're here.
So glad you're with us on Wealth by Design. And the guideline for Wealth by Design is here. Tom's put it together for you. This book is yours for free. Retirement Wealth by Design. You can scan the QR code. I'll leave that up for you here as we kind of try and wrap this up on the understanding of how do we create income that's going to last for the rest of our life. Many plans don't include what we're living through right now. The fact that it's now 25% or more expensive to live than after COVID started. How are you building inflation into an income plan as you move forward within each individual client?
Yeah, it's really been a sleeping giant because I almost feel like inflation was almost forgotten about for quite a while, and now it has become very, very real to all of us at this point. And we have to account for inflation. And so what we do from an income planning perspective is we not only account for the real inflation and historic inflation, we account for what we've had recently, and we account for if it's higher than we expect, because the cost of living isn't going down. However, there's going to come a point in your life when you're retired that the option to go back to work, if you have to, isn't going to be there. And so we need to ensure that regardless of what happens with who's in office or what is going on with the economy, if inflation rears its head, that you're going to be okay and that you're going to be covered. And so when we build out retirement income plans, we test for that. We call it stress testing. Stress testing is where we put different variables in, such as inflation, and see, will you still be okay? And in doing so, that's where we have confidence and peace of mind that you will be okay.
Okay, it's a number that is unknown. I mean, if we look at 50-year average, we're at 3.8%. The government's going to try and tell you that it's 2. Not building on a real number is part of the problem. But then there are other numbers that we have to deal with, which is the risk that we're dealing with. We talk about this with different advisors who are out there who are in the accumulation phase. Let's put all our money in the market. This is where it's supposed to be. And in the long term, it works for everybody. The problem is that the runway is now starting to get a little bit shorter for those of us moving towards that age of retirement. How do you adjust in risk value for a lot of people moving into this red zone of retirement, shall we say?
Well, I think that you brought up a great point. So over the last 50 years, the average rate of inflation was 3.8%. However, from 2000 to 2020, the average inflation rate was only 2.2%. And so there's changes that happen. There's market shocks that happen to where the market on average loses 10% per year, right? However, we're going to have a correction on average every 5.5 years, meaning that it's going to drop more than 20%. So we have to build these risks in. And when we do so, we have a strategic plan. We have a plan of if the market is up, this is where we're going to take from. If the market is down, this is where we're going to take from. We're going to have a purpose behind every single investment in your portfolio. When there's a purpose behind the investments, then that helps protect us. Some people call this the bucket strategy, right? Where there's different buckets of money. There might be short-term, medium-term, long-term. There might be buckets for needs. There might be buckets for wants. There's different types of bucket strategies, and different individuals need different retirement planning. There's not even a one-size-fits-all for the retirement plan itself. But different risks are going to come. And when we face those headwinds, when we face those challenges, you want to be certain that you've looked around those corners. That's why you hire an advisor sometimes, is because I've done this 100 times. You're only retiring once, hopefully. And so in doing so, you're leaning on my experience to help see what is potentially around the corners. Inflation might be one of them. Market corrections might be one of them. Increase in taxes might be one of them. There's going to be a lot of corners we have to look around. But all that we do is we plan ahead before it happens. That proactive planning is so important for keeping your money your money. And that's all that we're trying to do. Keep your money in your pockets. Don't give it to the stock market. Don't give it to the IRS. Don't give it to the nasty inflation. Don't give it to, we haven't spoken about Aunt Irma, the Medicare tax that's on there. You don't want to give it to all of these different areas. What we want to do is keep it in your own pocket.
So the number is there to call to put together a complimentary written financial plan. How do we keep more money in our pocket? How do we know that we have a plan that's going to last until our last breath? Am I on the right track? Am I with the right advisor? Is the person that I've been with all of this time the one that's going to take me to the very end? How about a free second opinion? How about a complimentary written financial plan to find out whether or not you're on the right track? And if you're not, when would you like to know? How about now? 833-348-4813 to put a plan in place to say, I have a little bit more confidence that this might actually work. We're so glad that you spend time with us. Time's your greatest asset. Now spend some time in the office. Do something for yourself. We'll be right back here next time on Wealth by Design.